Welcome back to the F3 Northeast Way Q Source podcast. Back with me is our friend Clay Campbell. Flush, thanks for coming back on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, Pax, we're in Quadrant 3, Q3.4 Vision. And so, just to know where we have been basically talking about teams as we got to this point, shared leadership, mutual competence, trust. We're talking about team building, and now we're starting to move into the skills of a leader. So we have these four major skills of a leader, and then there's five leadership virtues. As we're kind of the real meat of this book is where we're at in team building and leadership skills. And this is the first skill. And as you'll see as we study this out, we go from vision to articulation to persuasion to exhortation. They work in a sequential order. And so I'm excited to dig into it. Flush and I were running at quarantine. And I said, Flush, I need to get back on the podcast. When would you like to come back? He's like, what are some upcoming topics? And I rattled off about three or four, and without hesitation, he said, vision. That's my chapter. I was like, fantastic. So I'd love to have you on. So, Flush, thanks for coming back on. But you gravitated that. Something about vision spoke to you, or you speak to it. But tell us why is vision so important to you, and just kind of opine a little bit on that before we jump into the content.
Yeah, I think that vision is definitely one of those parts of being a leader, being especially a male leader in your community is really understanding, whether it's for my workplace, for my family, for the people that are important to me. I want to know where I'm headed. I want to, set a
Yeah,
target out there in
right,
in the distance and kind of
right.
say like, hey, that's I'm here. That's where I want to be. And then you start to articulate and think about how do I get there?
Man, I'm glad that you kept it so simple. I think we overcomplicate things sometimes. And really, let's just be honest, like there's plenty of people who just start doing crap. And after a while, you're like, wait, what are we doing? Is this amounting to anything? And it makes a difference when someone's before they start, like Stephen Covey, The Second Habit of Highly Effective People. He says, begin with the end in mind. Like, make a decision on where you're going, set a target where you all kind of orient yourself and move together. But it makes a difference when a leader seems to know where they're going versus just doing some stuff.
Yeah, it's so one of the things that we talked about earlier that I think really for me resonates. About 3 years ago, we moved from, a lot of folks know this about me, but we moved from Chicagoland area to Raleigh, to Northeast Wake. And the way that we made that decision and kind of worked our way backwards, it's funny that you said like think about the end first and work, kind of work from that as far as what your vision is. We knew that we wanted the kids to be out of school, so we kind of knew like when we would need to start moving and sell the house and all those things. And we actually made the decision back in February. Like so kids were out of school in June, February. So you do the math there, and it's like a 4 month process that we really worked ourselves back into to say, hey, this is where we want to be as a family. These are the things that we want to do. We need to start getting all those things to line up, start getting buy-in from our members of our family, maybe a little bit of resistance from those extended members of our family that had to wrap their brains around our vision for what we wanted to accomplish as a family. But yeah, just a really, kind of small micro example, but how having that vision required us to really understand some of the waypoints. Dredd talks about this as
Yeah.
a leader, you have the vision, you know what the pathway is, that it's going to take for you to be able to get to that intended destination. And then maybe the part of the challenge that you need to overcome with a team to be an effective leader is to help them understand what those waypoints look like, how you're measuring, your movement to and through those waypoints on your way to the destination.
Man, that's a perfect example. That's not a small thing either. I mean, you said kind of small. It's really not. My guess is the way you described it, you said you had 4 months to do it, but had you decided that had you started early, you needed 6 months, or if it needed 2 months, you would have made the adjustment because not only did you have a geographic target, you had a calendar target. And so you really had a vision on when you wanted to land and where you wanted to land. And that vision allowed you to create this plan that could get the whole team working together because we have this place that we're going to get to on a certain date.
And I'm not going to lie to you. Like it was from June to end of July, July 31st. We were pulling in here with the rental van at our home. like 10 o'clock at night. But that like 8 week window was really tough. There were moments I think where my wife and I were like, man, did we make a mistake here? Like, is this really, what we want to do? And so we just had to keep revisiting the vision that we had created back in February. Like, yeah, this is the right decision for our family. Our oldest had struggled with some mental health challenges. We felt like our family, in a lot of different ways, needed a reset, really needed to
Hmm.
forge our own path as a unit of five, and we stayed true to that path, to that vision, to achieving it, and we were able to meet it. Right? I think that is a key aspect of vision is really, you had an initial image. It evolves over time. It may change its shape or character, and you may have to make refinements to, it's not what I thought it was originally, but it is what we want to keep working towards. And then when you get there, just to kind of feel that sense of accomplishment that you stayed, relatively making headway towards what that vision guided you towards.
I'm hearing you say that, and I'm just thinking about like how supportive and loving it is for a leader to be able to provide that level of context because you mentioned how, you had some tough moments where the pressure was starting to build and you were able to revisit this agreement around a vision. And guys, let's just be honest, like do anything as a team, you're going to have hard moments. We talked about through trust. Trust is built through testing, right? And so know this, whenever you set out to do something, there's going to be a struggle. And if you don't have agreement on a vision, if we don't know what this is for, then likely you might give up or you might get team members who bail out. But when you can look back, like Flush did with his wife, and said, "Man, this is tough. Are we doing the right thing?" And say, "No, listen, let's revisit the vision and why we came to this conclusion." Then you were able to say, "Yeah, we're doing the right thing. Let's keep moving." Yeah,
And
love it.
I was going to say, it's the funny thing is, we had faith. We thought this was the right decision, and here we are 3 years later, and we absolutely made the right decision. Our
Yeah.
like our kids are living, I would argue, richer, fuller lives. As a family. Even just yesterday, we went to Millbridge and we did like a nature walk as a family, and everybody got some nature therapy, got energized, and it was just awesome to see that for our family. That those were experiences that we didn't do that. Not that you didn't have those resources available where we used to live, but it just seems to have shifted how we operate and interact as a family, to be
Mm.
able to.
Well, so there's this quote. It's kind of bolded. It's on page 139 if you've got your paperback, and Dred says, "A virtuous leader does not assess vision through the prism of his own virtue." And what I love about that is just speaking to the importance of leaders have to serve. And the vision has to serve the greater good of the team. And we can all think that we've got the right vision and it just serves us. But the best leader sets a vision and evaluates that vision based on how it's impacted and served the team and the stakeholders, right? And so here you are. We'll just keep using your move as an example because, clearly now the stakeholders can look back on dad's vision and say, that served us well. It wasn't just because you just had a wild hair, like some dads lead their family that way. Like you had a vision that was to that the greater serve the greater good of the family, and now the family can attest to that.
What's crazy, Money Pit, is just I mean, we thought a little bit about this, but just hearing you talk through this has brought back memory for me. When I was born in Kentucky. When I was 11, my parents decided to move the family from Kentucky up to Illinois, like where we
Wow.
moved from.
Wow.
And that was I remember, like, I had wrapped up fifth grade elementary school. I was probably not as bitter as my sister, but I was a little, like, I had to start over with friends. I lost those relationships. I was probably a little bit confused at that time around the vision. Like, I knew it was for work. Both my parents had, my dad had a job that took him up there. My mom had to get a new job. And I'm not sure I was fully, like, bought in or even knew what the vision was. Like, why are
Yeah.
we doing this? I was just
Right.
11 at the time, and my son now he's 12. So it's just interesting to kind of see
Right.
like that, yeah, that experience, and how we were really communicative to our family members to
Hmm.
let them know like why we're doing this, not just what the plan, like the fact that we're doing it, and we really, I think, over indexed in a positive way as to why we felt that this was going to be the right vision, the right course for our family. So it's just kind of interesting seeing, looking personally as one of the stakeholders when I was a kid to now being one of the leaders setting the course for my family as an adult.
Yeah, I mean, previews to coming attractions, right? The next chapter is articulation, followed by persuasion, and then exhortation. And we think about to have a vision, but it's important that we understand how to articulate it and we persuade everybody involved, and then we exhort or we encourage them along with it, so that the vision isn't just serving us. So we'll leave that between you and your dad on whether he did the steps 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
But good to hear that. So as we kind of put a bow on this, I want to I want to talk about a comment that Dredd makes on 140. He says, "Vision is a skill possessed by every person." And I bet you there's packs that are listening to this and think, Flush is a visionary. He's a planner. He's very organized. That's just not my way. But I think I would agree with Dredd, and I'd love to hear what you think, that vision is a skill that everyone has. And it's a skill that we can all grow in. And I think that the first step, even if you don't think you're a visionary, is you've got to understand how important it is that you use this skill. Even if you don't call yourself a visionary, that if we're going to lead people, we've got to be able to show them this better place that we're going to take them to. Because if they don't know where you're taking them, they're likely not going to want to follow.
Yeah, I feel like the advice I would give any of the packs that's kind of thinking like, I'm fine. I'm fine just kind of like where I am and the way I'm moving through, life. And I think you start small. You start simple. It's,
Hmm.
you have a vision.
Hmm.
You can have a vision. Hey, what's the vision I have for this bedroom? What's the vision
That's
I
right.
have for my yard? What's the vision I have for, my commute? Like whatever it
Yeah.
might be in life, like you can have an acknowledgement of where you are right now, doing things the way that you are and the way that you want them to be. And then it's just a matter of, well, how do I get there? What are the steps that I need to follow? What are the things that I need to change, keep doing, stop doing that will allow me to start to actualize some of that vision, to realize it, right? To get me there. And then, who needs to be involved? What does your team look like?
Wow.
How do I start to activate those folks to be in partnership or collaboration to help achieve that vision? So I'd say start small, start simple, and then to be thinking about different ways that you can apply vision in your life. There are, it could be, what's the vision that you have for, your interaction with your kids for Saturday night? Like, do I have a vision for board game night? What game are we going to play? Is there something I want to communicate to my kids as we play it, or do I just want to have fun? Those can all just be ways in which you are thinking about what you want to achieve, as a dad, as a man, as a leader.
Wow. I mean, I'm just really challenged by what you said. If we think about, if we've got relationships that we want to improve, or relationships that we're not happy with where they're at, then likely we have not been intentional with a vision for that relationship. And really, we don't have to use lofty terms. We can just say we want something more. Just want is a vision, right? You're identifying a desired outcome. And then I love it. It's like like if you didn't hear it, guys, he gave 3 steps. This is like just really quick masterclass on vision, right? What do you want? So then I reverse engineer. What steps do I've got to do to get from here to there? And then who needs to get involved, right? So identify a vision, where we're going to eat on the perfect date with my wife, Saturday with the kids, the family vacation, the next 5 year where we're going to live in 5 years. Where do we want to get to? So then reverse engineer steps and then ask who needs to get involved. Man, I think those 3 things are powerful. And I love that you added in who needs to be involved, because most of the time we have a who, not a how problem. And when we bring the right people into the team around a vision, it's amazing what we can get done.
That's the icing right there. That's the icing on the cake, Money Pit. I've I'd love to say I've lived my entire life this way. I haven't, right?
Yeah.
I've learned a lot of these things because
Yeah.
I didn't have the right people involved, or I had an incomplete vision, right? I didn't really understand where I wanted to go, or it was a partial destination. And I think, like, here's a really simple example, something that worked well for me when I did the tuna relay with the other guys, other packs from Northeast Wake, or even just a really long ruck. Like I've done probably my longest ruck ever was I did a go ruck marathon a Star Course event. If you ever do that, that's awesome way to expend, fellowship with some other men. But what you end up doing is you pick a point in the distance,
Okay.
right? And
Yep.
you just say, that's I all I have to do is get to that light
Get
pole
there.
or get over that bridge. And then you get there. What do you do? Do you say, oh, I'm done? No, you set a new
Pick another
point,
point.
pick another point. That's how you are able to
Right.
make progress towards your
All
vision.
right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap it there, guys. I want to challenge you. Flush gave us just three really powerful steps. I think, it's amazing what may start happening in our lives when we just pick a new point. Pick a new point in our career, pick a new point in a relationship. Just pick a new point and then form the steps to get there, and then don't leave without asking who needs to get involved. Flush, really appreciate you last minute taking the time to share your wisdom on a topic that's near and dear to your heart. I know this has blessed me, and I hope it's blessed the PAX. And guys, we'll see you at the Q Source table.
Thanks, guys.